Hello and welcome to the 3D software. In Brightspace, you'll notice that we have some videos that go over 3ds Max, so I wanted to just make sure to supplement and show you some of the similar things in Maya. Again, the two software programs are very similar. They do the exact same thing, so it's important to know about theory and why behind what we're doing, but then it's just a matter of finding which button does what in which software. Alright, so here's Maya. I have Maya 2018. It's the most recent version. I would recommend 2017 or 2018. Both are free to download for students. Again, just go to the Autodesk site and then you'll be able to find it there. So in Maya, we have your viewport right here. You can see at the bottom it says pers for perspective. You can always hit spacebar and that toggles between showing four views, the top, front, side, and perspective. If you hover your mouse over one of them, so mine's in the perspective, if I hit spacebar again, it makes that one large. It's the same thing as these two buttons over here, so I can toggle between 4 or 1. And it's important that you're using all 4 because once we get into 3D, you need to make sure that they're lining up in all views. Over here we have your outliner. This is what's going to list everything in the scene, so primitive objects like what we're dealing with this week, lights, etc. If you don't see this, you can go to Window, Outliner. Over here we have your channel box and your attribute editor. If you hit Control A, that'll toggle between the two. These will allow us to look at the translate, rotate, and scale with our objects. We'll take a look once we make one. In Maya, here we have our Poly Modeling tab. This shows you our standard primitives. So you can just go there, click and let go, and it'll make one right at the 0, 0, 0 access point. You can see I have P-Sphere 1 now in my outliner, and if I look over here into my channel box, here's the translate, rotate, scale that I was talking about. And if I go to the attribute editor, P-Sphere 1, same thing. Whichever one's more easy for you to look at or use, you can use, but they do the same. If you don't want to use this tab, you can always go to Create, Polygon Primitives, and then they're all listed there. Down here you'll see there's interactive creation. So when I clicked on it, it just made a standard size at the 0, 0, 0 access point. If you want to actually click and drag to make the shape whatever size you want, you'll want this clicked on. So for example, with this clicked on, when I click the sphere, now it says drag on the grid, so I can click and drag to make it however big I want. I'm just going to hit delete to get rid of that one for right now so we can focus on the original. So now we've created a polygon primitive and that's awesome, but I want to be able to look at it and see what's going on here. So I'm in my perspective view, which allows me to navigate entirely around it. So if I hold Command, if you're using a Mac, or Control on a PC, and left mouse click, I can navigate, rotate around my entire object. If you are using a Mac computer, it's important that you have a mouse. This will not work with your trackpad, so make sure you have an external mouse. If I Command middle mouse click, I can pan, and then I can use the middle mouse rolly ball to zoom in and out. So now we can fully see what we're doing navigating around the viewport. So now actually dealing with our object, when you click on it, you'll notice that the wireframe turns green. If I click off, it becomes a standard shape. You're going to want to keep your left hand kind of where you keep it when you're typing, because we're going to be dealing with Q, W, E, and R. That is going to be our select, move, rotate, and scale. Once you get used to dealing in Maya or Max, you're really going to want to use those hotkeys. Yes, they're the same as these buttons over here, but I really want you to use the keyboard, not the buttons. So, for example, if I hit W, that's my move tool. This is called a gizmo, and the gizmo allows you to click and drag to see which direction you want to move it. So this one turned yellow, so you can see it's activated. If I click and drag, it doesn't matter which way I drag, I can only move along that axis. Same thing, or I can go up and down. If you want to move freely, you can see this little box in the middle allows me to click and drag it wherever. If I hit E, I get rotate. Same thing using the gizmo. And if I hit R, I can scale. Now scale is really important because if you want to scale it proportionally, you must grab the center. If not, you can stretch it and you can see when I navigate what I'm creating. Alright, so what am I looking for this week with your assignment? Well, you want to take a picture of something that you think you can create with base shapes. Again, we're dealing with move, rotate, and scale, so you can kind of adjust these shapes, but it won't be until a little bit later when we get into the more detailed manipulation set. So I want to bring in an image of something that I took and then build it in Maya. Alright, so I'm going to actually go into my front view, so panels, orthographic front. You can see it's pretty standard. I'm going to go to view and image plane and import image. Okay, so those reference images that you got or the pictures that you took, we're going to import this way. So I have an image here of a snowman. We can still use our move, rotate, and scale to adjust. But I'm going to build this out of standard primitives. Now some of this might be a little bit more difficult to achieve, but we're going to do our best. So I know that the base of the snowman, we've got 2 spheres. So I can create a sphere. It says drag on the grid. So I can make this. Now again, it's not going to be perfect as a standard shape, so we need to move and scale it a bit. Alright. And I'll insert a second one. Again, I'm going to try to make it fit. Now this might be fine and dandy from this view, but as I said before, we need to check our other views. So I'm going to go into my perspective and see what's going on here. Now, you may want to take a side view as well and use it as a reference, or for this we can kind of pretend. So to grab both shapes, I can click one, hold shift, click the other, and I can edit them together. You can see here I can always click on my shapes this way. You also want to get used to naming them, so I can double click snowman body, double click snowman head. When you start to get a ton of similar shapes, this will become vital that they're named. So then I can go back into my front view and keep going. So, this maybe is kind of a cylinder. We may need to adjust it, but I'll just start simply. Now, what's going on here? Well, because I'm using my front view, my cylinder is the wrong way. So I'm going to look at my perspective really quick to show you. This is how the cylinder is looking, but I want it to be rotated. It's very simple. Hit E on my keyboard and rotate. You can also see over here, I can actually type in a number. Or if I click on the word rotate X, move my mouse into the viewport and middle mouse click and drag, I can kind of see the numbers and just rotate it how I see fit. And then I can move it over. And then I'll hit spacebar, move to my front view, hit spacebar again. So now I gotta make sure that it's actually where I want it. And I'll scale it. Okay. Then I'll do the same thing, make another cylinder, make a sphere, but basically you're just building your object out of simple shapes, navigating the viewport and showing that you understand move, rotate, and scale. Okay? So if there are any questions, feel free to let me know, and I hope you enjoy getting started in the software.